Welcome to yet another meeting of the minds here on PhD&D on YouTube. If you've never been to a meeting of the minds, let me explain what that is. That's where the greatest minds in the world connect on YouTube to discuss topics in tabletop RPGs that don't have an obvious answer. That's through video responses, that's through comments. However you want to present your option or your opinion, present it. This week we talk about living worlds versus player friendly. What's meant by that? Well, I'm going to tell you a little story or two. This, you may have seen in my coffee and campaign building, is a world I'm working on. This little island right there. That little island was involved in my first playtest of D&D Next. Now, first level characters should not fight a wraith. Let's just throw that out there. As a DM, what did I do? I threw a wraith in front of them. I'm sorry. And they got to that island, they fought a wraith. What ensued? Total party wipe. Now don't start yelling at me yet because they almost beat it. If one player hadn't been just a little too selfish at the very end, they would have come out just fine. But that brings to mind, when we start our next campaign, whether it's D&D Next or 5th edition or some other system, I still want this world. I want there to be a wraith on that island, in that house. I want their dead bodies to be there so that they can feel like this world is not more real but plausible. They can go to that house in their minds and be like, oh crap, that's our old characters. That's just a really cool feeling for me. However, the world's also open and living. So examples of this would be that wraith is still going to be there. I want a banshee somewhere with a really cool story because I read in Gygax magazine the ecology of banshees. So I'm going to put a banshee with a really cool story somewhere. And at level 1, maybe they shouldn't fight that. But if they go to that area while doing something else, or they somehow hear about it and decide that they want to, that banshee's going to be there. I'm not going to change the level on it. If it comes to a total party wipe, that gets into a whole other realm of, what you can do as a DM to prevent a party wipe or give them another chance or something like that. We're not getting into that. That wraith's going to be there. It's going to be its level. There's going to be ancient dragons in very rare places. If the players, by some crazy, series of events, happens to land in the lair of one, they're not going to win, so they better turn around and run. It's a living world. Higher level monsters exist, no matter what level the players are. If they run into them, they better realize quick that they shouldn't be there. It works the reverse way. If the players, and this is called epic goblins, if the players get super, super high level and they go to an area where there's a goblin tribe that I had, I'm not going to make them epic level goblins. They're going to be levels 1, 2, 3, and these level 15, 20 players are going to obliterate them because it's a living world. If they run into goblins and they're high level, why would I try to raise that to their level to balance out the encounter? You get what I'm saying? It's a living, breathing world when things exist regardless of the player's level. Another story would be our playtest this weekend for D&D Next. I played in this one. I was a lawful good dwarf paladin. Yeah. You're going to run into a lot of trouble when you play something like that. There was a lawful good dwarf cleric as well. We were really good friends. We ended up on this dark island, and more wraiths actually. And we weren't supposed to fight the wraiths. They were on another island. We went exploring, and we saw them across the water, just a group of wraiths. Now I know as a DM, one wraith is enough to wipe out both of us. There were about 10 to 12. What did we do? Well, these dwarves can't stand this desecration on these islands. We charged right in because that's what we should have done based on our character personalities, backgrounds, and so forth. That was an example of a living world. Yes, we came out alive because we were saved by a friend who'd followed us and we found the wraiths wouldn't come out on the water. So we survived that. We didn't hardly kill anything. But that's another example of that living world. Those wraiths were there regardless. It's not that they didn't exist because they were too strong for us. They were there. We were stupid enough to go fight them. So, whatever happens, happens. Now, a player-friendly world. And these aren't straight up either or. You could kind of intermix this. A player-friendly world is where a DM or dungeon master is not going to expose the party to something that's just ridiculously beyond their level. You intentionally create areas, stories, subplots, plots based on the character's level so that they can, proceed up, have fun, everything's balanced, and so forth. You can kind of intermix those, like I said. You can be friendly to them in a living world and so forth. But that's what I want to talk about in the Meeting of the Minds this week is how do you approach that? Do you prefer the living world where there are legitimate threats that exist that can wipe your party and will, should you encounter them? Or do you prefer to keep things a little more player friendly and just build every encounter kind of around them? Now in the living world, players usually follow along the lines of plots that are about their level. They're exposed to things. I'm not just going to, I did with the Wraith, I'm sorry, I hadn't really understood D&D Next completely. But I'm not going to throw an ancient dragon at them at level 1 as one of their storylines. That's just not going to happen. If they stumble across the information of, hey, there might be a dragon underneath this mountain, and they choose to go pursue that, who am I to stop them? But I'm going to introduce plots that are usually around their level, knowing full well that other things exist that can kill them, that they have the option to fight. So I've been rambling long enough, but that's Meeting of the Minds, a living world versus a player-friendly world. Where do you fall kind of on that spectrum? How do you handle it? Thank you for watching.